In the far reaches of the Zelthoran Nebula, the United Galactic Forum watched in collective horror as a blip appeared on their holographic display screens. The alien delegates, their bodies tense with anxiety, whispered among themselves. There, in the heart of the Xanar System, something they had never hoped to see again appeared. The RSS Relentless, a Terran warship breaking out of its FTL jump. Whispers became fearful murmurs as the reality set in. This ship belonged to humans, a race that no one had crossed and lived to tell the tale. Commander Darius Kane stood stoically on the bridge of the Relentless. His hardened face bore the scars of years spent on battlefields. His eyes focused intently on the fleet of Xanar warships that now swarmed the screen. They had every weapon imaginable trained on his ship. The Relentless was entirely alone, encircled by a fleet of hundreds, each vessel humming with destructive energy. But as Darius gripped the console before him, his lips twisted into a grim smile, almost daring them to make the first move. It had been 15 years since the brutal Terran-Xanar war had come to an uneasy halt. Darius remembered it well. The Xanar, in their arrogance, had launched a surprise assault on Terran colonies in the Vectra sector, slaughtering millions of innocents in cold blood. Earth's response had been swift and devastating. Entire Xanar worlds were reduced to irradiated wastelands. The uneasy truce that followed hadn't erased the bitter hatred Darius still harbored. For him, this mission was more than strategic. It was deeply personal. He was here to settle a score that had festered for far too long. Suddenly, a signal crackled through the bridge's comm system. The grotesque face of Supreme Commander Zivak of the Xanar materialized on the hollow screen. His leathery skin, pulled tight over sharp bone structures, glistened with malice. "One Terran ship," Zivak sneered, his serpentine eyes narrowing. "Did you truly think you could intimidate us with this pitiful display? I thought your kind would have learned by now, after all the blood we shed." Darius's expression didn't waver. "I'm not here to talk," he said coldly. "I'm here to finish what you started." Without hesitation, Darius slammed his fist down on the weapon's control, unleashing the fury of the Relentless. The ship thrummed with the release of power not seen since the end of the war, and the Xanar fleet commander's sneer faltered. Sensors aboard the Xanar flagship went berserk as readings surged beyond comprehension. "This can't be," Zivak hissed, his voice dripping with disbelief. "A ship that size cannot generate that much firepower." Darius's voice cut through the tense atmosphere like a blade. Surprise. The first volley from the Relentless was cataclysmic. Swarms of missiles, charged with antimatter warheads, streaked toward the Xanar dreadnought at breakneck speed. The Xanar ship, a towering behemoth bristling with weaponry, managed to activate its shields in time, only for them to be obliterated in the first instant of the assault. The dreadnought's hull disintegrated in a series of fiery chain reactions, the bright flashes of explosions illuminating the void around it as it was torn apart. Zivak watched in horror, his jaw slack as his fleet began to crumble around him. In rapid succession, the Relentless systematically annihilated each Xanar warship with cold precision. One by one, the mighty vessels fell, reduced to debris and scattered ashes. It took mere minutes for Darius to turn the once proud Xanar armada into a floating graveyard of shattered metal. The bridge of the Relentless was eerily quiet as Darius surveyed the carnage. His console blinked with new alerts as escape pods launched from the Xanar homeworld below. Thousands of small, faint blips appeared on the targeting display, each representing civilians trying to flee the doomed planet. Darius's hand hovered over the firing button. Every fiber of his being wanted to finish it, to send those pods to their fiery end. After all, the Xanar hadn't spared the lives of his people, the innocents who had perished in the colonies all those years ago. His family, his friends, all wiped out in a matter of days. His heart thundered in his chest, bloodlust pounding in his temples. But his hand trembled. These were civilians, innocents like those lost in the colonies. Would killing them truly bring justice? Or would it make him no better than the monsters who started this war? His decision was interrupted by a new presence on the battlefield. The GNS Sentinel, the flagship of the United Galactic Forum, materialized out of nowhere, its enormous frame dwarfing even the Relentless. A deep, authoritative voice crackled over the comms. "Terran vessel, this is the GNS Sentinel. Cease your attack immediately. or we will be forced to engage. Darius's blood ran cold. The Sentinel was a fortress of unimaginable power, bristling with weapons capable of obliterating even his mighty warship. He had fought Xanar fleets, survived planetary assaults, but this was different. The Forum had remained neutral during the conflict between the Terrans and the Xanar, hiding behind diplomacy and treaties while millions suffered. He gritted his teeth. "Sentinel, this is Commander Darius Kane of the RSS Relentless. I will not stand down. The Xanar have committed atrocities that demand justice, and the Forum has done nothing but sit idly by. Your actions here are unjustifiable," the voice from the Sentinel boomed. "This is an order. Cease now or face the consequences." Darius's fingers twitched over the weapons console. He knew what would happen if he defied them. He also knew what would happen if he complied. The Xanar would rebuild, regroup, and one day they would strike again. The memories of human screams haunted him, the cries of mothers, fathers, children as they were massacred. His rage bubbled over. "Then you'll have to kill me," he snarled, severing the comlink. The Sentinel moved first. A beam of plasma shot from its prow, slamming into the Relentless's shields. The ship groaned under the immense pressure, the energy shields barely holding as the Sentinel continued its assault. Darius's eyes narrowed. The Sentinel was powerful, far more than any Xanar ship, but the Relentless was no ordinary vessel. He input a new series of commands, diverting power from every non-essential system to the ship's experimental phase cannon. The weapon had been banned across the galaxy, its destructive potential deemed too great for any conflict. But Darius had no choice. He wasn't fighting to win a battle. He was fighting for survival, for vengeance, for his very soul. The phase cannon hummed ominously as it charged, glowing an unnatural blue. The entire ship vibrated under the strain, the crew bracing themselves for what was to come. With grim determination, Darius took aim. The Sentinel's bridge, he had to end this in one shot. He fired. The beam erupted from the Relentless, an intense spear of energy that cut through the void. It struck the Sentinel's shields, which flared brilliantly under the assault, holding for a brief moment before collapsing. The beam tore through the Sentinel's hull, cutting deep into the massive ship. Explosions rippled along its length as its critical systems failed, turning the once mighty fortress into a crippled husk. The battle was over, but the war inside Darius's mind raged on. His eyes drifted back to the escape pods, civilians, fleeing for their lives. His hand hovered over the console, the decision looming once again. Would he press the button? Would he annihilate an entire race for the crimes of their leaders? With a deep, shuddering breath, Darius lowered his hand. "Xanar civilians," he spoke into the comms. "You are free to go. Leave this system and never return. I won't be so merciful next time." He cut the transmission and watched as the Relentless turned away from the Xanar homeworld. The stars stretched into lines as the ship jumped back into FTL, leaving behind a scarred planet and the weight of choices that would haunt him for the rest of his life. As the ship hurtled through the dark expanse of space, Darius closed his eyes, his thoughts a turbulent storm. He had chosen mercy, but would the galaxy see it as weakness? Time would tell.